Once upon a time, I was working on a project, and another person came along and said, "Oh, let me help you with that." Now, there's a number of ways that you can respond to such a request or an offer. This person thinks that I can't do it on my own. Gosh, they're probably right. This person thinks I can't do it on my own. Gosh, that makes me really mad. Number 3. This person would like to be helpful. Maybe we can create something even better together. And another option. This person would like to be helpful. I don't really need help right now, so I will politely decline and request that I can call them later if needed. This is week 2 of our series on the 4 agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. And the basis of these agreements, that we have all made plenty of agreements with each other and with the world about how things are and what they mean and how everything works. And some of them are helpful, as like we have all agreed that the color, we're going to call the color that these chairs are, is blue. That's helpful because we're all on the same page. We can, another set of rules that we've all agreed to abide by for the most part that I think are really great are traffic rules. It's really helpful. Or at least we try to abide by the same rules. Can you imagine if we didn't? So these are good agreements, but not all agreements are helpful. Some agreements are harmful, like agreeing that we're not good enough, or agreeing that we're not smart enough, or even just that there isn't enough. That's one that we can work on as a society. So this series is about gaining personal freedom through breaking the agreements that are harmful and making some new ones. So last week we reviewed the first agreement, which he argues is the core agreement, and that is to be impeccable with your word. And that's not just about our promises that we make, but also that we use language that is for us and not against us, so that everything that we think and that we say and that we do is in alignment with who we are, our best ourselves. Seems like a good idea. So the second agreement is don't take anything personally. And the title of today's talk is It's Not About You. And which I thought was really clever. And then it was really, really clever when I texted Sue last night. I said, a great song we could do is that Carly Simon song, You're So Vain. Which we did choose not to do, but I just offer that as a great example of a song that would fit with this theme really great. It's not about you, right? And this is really hard to do, to remember to not take everything personally, because we're social creatures. And it's part of our nature, even our survival instincts, to take feedback from the group. Right? I mean, that's how we've survived to make it to this point. And so I'm not saying that advice from trusted sources isn't helpful. It is. But, I know some of us have to touch the hot stove to believe it's hot. I personally am fine trusting you telling me that the red light means that the stove is hot and going with that. So taking advice from other people can be helpful, but that's not the same as taking things personally. So when someone comes along and wants to help, I get to choose if I'm going to take it personally and think that they're telling me that I can't, or I'm not good enough, or I'm not smart enough, or if simply they're just trying to help. Or maybe they have advice because they've learned something and they want me to not to make the mistake that they've made before. If someone comes along and says, if you put the lid on the pot, the spaghetti sauce won't boil over. It's a helpful thing to know. They're not telling me I'm dumb. It's a good thing to know. And here's the thing. Even if someone did mean something to be harmful, if they were really trying to hurt your feelings, that still doesn't mean you have to take it on. If someone hands you the poison, that doesn't mean you have to take it, right? So if they say you're stupid, you can just say, hey, everyone's entitled to their opinion. And that doesn't make it right. So in the book, he equated these intentionally harmful words to poison, like I said. So if they're trying to hurt your feelings, or like I said last week, if you don't got any room in your mind, if you don't have any tracks built in that direction or that they're trying to go, it's not going to work. So even when we're not going to take things personally, though, that means the good stuff too. And this is the part I think that people, it's easy to say, okay, well, if someone calls me stupid, I don't need to take that personally. That's not really about me. That's about them and their stuff. And so I'll just ignore that. That makes perfect sense. But what if I told you that it applies to the quote unquote good stuff too? Because, and I'm not saying you shouldn't be saying nice things to each other because that's polite, but our worth is not related, for good or bad, to what someone else thinks. So my teacher, Robert Brummett, always advised us to not get too entwined with the comments that folks would tell you after service. You know, in big churches, this is what they do. The minister stands by the door and everybody files out and they go, oh, that was so amazing. Oh my gosh, you changed my life. And then every like 20th person, they're like, that was awful. And of course you remember the one person who said it was awful, right? Because our brains are wired so weirdly. But so Robert told us, just don't, you know, because it's not really about what you said, it's about people's own experiences, right? And so doing that can help guard against that one negative comment. And you're like, oh, you don't have to do all of that drama, which is good. But even more important is to remember that people hear what they want to hear. Another minister friend of mine says, you know, he was standing there after church and people came by and somebody said, that thing that you said about da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, that was so amazing. And my friend going, you know, of course, I'm so glad that meant something to you. But in their mind, they're going, I didn't say that. Did I say that? I mean, and so they were so befuddled by the whole thing that they went back and listened to the tape. And lo and behold, they did not say one thing about this thing that the person said that meant so much to them. Which just goes to show that even as you're sitting there, listening to me, you're filtering it through your own filters and having your own little conversations in your mind about what that is and how that relates to something, and you're doing it right now, and it's okay. That's how our brains work. So if I took it personally every single time, it would be like you can't follow every single, you know, you go for trends, not specifics in this particular case. So it's much easier to just, I'm glad it meant something to you. And I am glad, but it's not about my worth. You see the difference? Because of course I want you to get something out of it. Otherwise, why would I bother? But that's on you, not on me. So it's much more helpful if we don't take anything personally. Now, whether someone's words are poison or sweetness, that's both potentially problematic. Our instinctual nature wants approval from our group. It's instinctual. We want our friends to like us. We want our tribe to like us. But needing approval is not freedom. Personal freedom comes from being true to ourselves and not requiring anyone else's endorsement of who we are. If they like us, that's fine. But if they don't, That's fine too. Now, on a side note, if there's someone really malicious or harmful things going on, obviously you do need to get out of harm's way. You can't just be like, oh, not personal, just going to let them keep beating up on me. Don't do that. But it's not about you. It's about them. So just get out of the way. You've been on the road with that really aggressive driver and you're just like, okay, I'm just going to get out of your way and let you go by and do whatever you're going to do. Not really about me. But it can be really hard because we want our friends to like us, right? I mean, we want our family. We want these, like I said, it's instinctual. And it can be hard when we don't get invited to something that our friends are going to. Or when it seems like someone's ignoring us or turning the other way. But I'll tell you something. A couple years ago, I got a message from an acquaintance. Someone I kind of know, but not really. And they said, is there something wrong? Because when you walked into that room, then you turned around and went the other way after you saw me. And then that other time when we were a group of people, you didn't really say much. And while I applaud her efforts to come to the source instead of triangulating and creating all this drama and all of that thing, I was sort of like, okay, well, I got a lot of things going on that was on my mind. So sometimes I don't have a lot to say. I know it's hard to believe, but it's true. Sometimes I don't have a lot to say. Or maybe I wasn't feeling safe in the group. I don't know. I don't remember. And when I turned and walked away, we're talking the fellowship hall at Unity Village, which actually most of you have actually been to. But we're talking a big room with 60 or more people in it. And I come in one side, and this person's over on the other side. And yes, I did see her, and yes, I did turn and leave the room after the time at which I'd seen her. But I also was across the room and doing different things with different people, and then went, oh, I need to do, and boom, off I went to go do whatever it was I remembered. I was also serving as the youth director at that time, and I remembered something I needed to do. And so I went and did it. And so this whole story is about someone taking my actions that were about me and making it about her and a perceived problem. And don't we all do that? I mean, I've done it. But it's really not usually, I mean, here's the thing, we're all really mostly thinking about ourselves. And if you know that that's true about yourself, that mostly you're kind of like in your own head doing your own thing, don't you think that's probably true for most of the other people, and they're really not standing around thinking about you and all the awful things you did all the time, or the things that they think you did? I mean, I'm just saying. So when you think about the story I just told you, she probably thought about it, put some energy into it, maybe even talked to her spouse about it, and there'd been some, and then she finally decided to do something, and she did a positive thing. She did the healthy thing about it. But that was a lot of energy wasted for nothing. And then when I got her message, I'm like, wait, what? I'm like, wait, stop the drama train, It's not always that easy to get resolution. Sometimes you don't get invited to the party that you want to be at. It's not about me. They don't realize I'm awesome. That's not my problem. Just saying. So I got this morning as I'm looking at my past posts on Facebook. You know how it does that memory thing? I found this quote from Myrtle Fillmore that I posted a couple years ago. And she said, if you are resentful, you cannot do a good healing work till that trait is conquered. If you are impatient and irritable, look for the sweet, fresh bloom that a restful attitude alone can bring you. So she uses the word resentful, but I think that oftentimes resentment can come from taking things personally, because we think somebody doesn't like us, and so we get ourselves all worked up. And she's just saying, you got to free that stuff. Look for the sweet. And that's really nice. And so last week I gave you homework, which was to listen to your language and what you talk about, what you think about, and if there was anything that maybe you wanted to be more in alignment about. So I'm just reminding you to continue to think about those things as we're being impeccable with our words and our thoughts and our ideas. So we want to be in alignment with our highest selves all the time, right? Yes. Okay. So, so this week we're adding to that, along with being impeccable with our word, is remembering that it's not usually about us. So let's not take it personally, which is also a lifelong practice. So I'm going to close with this little reading from the very end, second to last paragraph of this chapter about not taking it personally. And he writes, as you make a habit of not taking anything personally, you won't need to place your trust in what others do or say. You will only need to trust yourself to make responsible choices. You are never responsible for the actions of others. You are only responsible for you. When you truly understand this and refuse to take things personally, you can hardly be hurt by the careless comments or actions of others. It just rolls off like water on a duck. I'm not saying it's easy. Just like last week, I'm not saying it's easy. I'm just saying it's the way to become more free.